Hi, it's Jan Beta, and I have this Commodore MPS-801 here in the lab today, and we're going to take a look at it. So here it is, the Commodore MPS-801 matrix printer. And this model of printer is actually the first printer I personally ever owned, so it is quite nostalgic for me. This is of course not the one I owned back in the day. This got donated by Ingo recently. Thank you very much for that. This was released by Commodore in 1984 and was meant to be used with the Commodore 64 primarily. The case on this particular unit is really severely yellowed, so I'm going to have to do some retrobrighting on that, I guess. Usually the color is more like this, like light beige tone, which doesn't match any of the Commodore machines at the time, so don't really know why they chose to design it like this. This wasn't produced by Commodore. It was outsourced to Psychosha actually. So this is a Psychosha, I don't know how to pronounce that in English, branded as a Commodore printer. And it's a very basic model. It actually has 7 dots vertically. It isn't even able to produce real descenders, the little hooks that go below the line of text, really. So on a G or on a J, you usually have, with a decent printer, you usually have them go lower than the actual line. This doesn't do that, it just prints everything in one line, as we're going to see. Let's take a look at the unit from the outside. At first, let me just take a couple of seconds for a word from the sponsor for this video, PCBWay, my favorite manufacturer of prototype PCBs. PCBWay offers very high quality prototype PCBs and also larger scale projects. They offer excellent service and have very fast delivery times and excellent quality PCBs. So I highly recommend you check out the link in the video description and give PCBWay a try. Back to the printer. Yeah, it is a very basic model. It has the Commodore IEC serial bus connectors here that connect to the Commodores since the VIC-20, I believe. And yeah, this is a 6-pin DIN connector and they're just connected through, so you can daisy chain your devices. And this has a switch for the device number actually. The standard device number for printers on the Commodores is 4. You can switch it to serial number 5 in case you have more than one printer connected. And you can also switch it to T mode, which is a built-in self-test mode that just prints the whole character set repeatedly, which is also pretty basic functionality, but it's pretty useful. This does work. I actually tried that. And in terms of controls, we have this Paper Advance foil button, a power LED, and we have a manual like paper feed mechanism. So there's not much going on here. It only does perforated endless paper, which you can clip in here. And you can actually set these to different width of paper, which is pretty nice. Yeah, and the paper just feeds in the back and goes through these wheels and then feeds out in the back. Really, really basic. Yeah, this is the ribbon. You can actually still buy these because they're used in a number of things. Here in Germany, they are actually used in some kind of shooting range equipment. I don't know much about that, but it seems that that's the reason why these are still readily available from like everywhere, basically. You can buy these on Amazon even. And the initial versions of these that were Commodore branded actually had a refillable tank here with a sponge in it that you could refill with ink. And then the ribbon itself would be re-soaked in ink while traveling. This is a cheaper aftermarket cartridge, I guess, and it just has a long ribbon in here. We're going to see about that later. I'm just going to reinsert the cartridge here. As I said, I already tested this, and I'm just going to put a piece of paper in there and show you the printing in action using the test mode. This is actually lined paper. The way you feed this in is actually really basic as well, of course. And then I'm just going to plug it in and put it into test mode. And after I turn this on, it should just print the built-in character set over and over again. So let's try that. And it's loud. It's loud and slow. Yeah, and as you can see, it only prints in one direction while moving the print head. I don't even know if that applies to this device. Yeah, it only prints in one direction, so it's a unidirectional printer. And yeah, as you can see, the ribbon is quite dry, but you can still see things on paper actually. And this is what the printout looks like. Not very great, but it does the trick. And it can do all the Petsky characters as well, as you can see here. You can barely make it out because we don't have a lot of ink in the cartridge. That's going to be one of the things I need to do something about. And as you can see, the Q, the P, the J, the G, they are all just in the 7 dots this has vertically. So yeah, that's how it looks. It just looks like the J is flying and the Q and the P are flying. So the Y as well, and the G. Of course, every character that has descendered, the lowercase characters, some of them look a bit peculiar on these ones, but I kind of love how they did that, and I love this printer because obviously it's really nostalgic for me to see this. And there's also not a lot going on. There's like a ribbon with some teeth that grabs the print head assembly and moves it. And yeah, that's about it. I think actually what I want to do first is to see if I can replenish this ink cartridge. And as this potentially can get really messy, I'm just taking some precautions here, aka wearing some gloves for this. So here's my cartridge, and it has this little mechanism that just moves the ribbon. And there's just tangled up here, there's just a long ribbon in there. And basically what I want to do is to not take this apart, because that would be pretty messy to get back together with the ribbon just wildly coiled up in here. I want to try to put some new ink on the ribbon itself using sponge pieces, I guess, from both sides. So I researched quite a bit on forums and asked around a bit, and actually people recommended to use stamp pad ink, and for the dot matrix printers they recommended using stamp pad ink with oil in it. This is usually used for like metal stamps and things like that. So if you use a rubber stamp with this, it might dissolve the stamp. The reasoning behind that in the forums was that if you use oil-based ink, it's not going to evaporate that quickly, and it's also going to kind of lubricate the printing mechanism. So you can buy dedicated ink for refilling or replenishing ribbons in typewriters and dot matrix printers, but I think it's quite the similar stuff. And yeah, this is what I got after researching quite a bit. I hope this works. I'm not sure, I have never tried this in any way. So this is the first time for me. I actually have some new ribbons, or new old stock ribbons. I have an original Commodore ribbon on order from eBay, which was new old stock, still sealed. So I hope that works, and that should have the little ink container that I mentioned earlier. That should be pretty easy to refill, actually. I'm just going to try this, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So nothing much to lose here, I guess. Hope this works, though. So I just cut up a kitchen sponge, and I'm just going to soak it in ink and then move the ribbon. Yeah, that should probably, maybe, work. Let's find out. And I'm just turning this, and from time to time I push a bit so it can take some ink, hopefully. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad, actually. Let's put some more on here. Shouldn't need too much, actually. I have no idea if this method works at all. So usually people take these apart, these cartridges, and just put the ink somewhere inside. And on some there is a sponge that you can just soak. And on the Commodore ones there's actually a little tank with a sponge in it that you can refill, which I'm going to do as soon as I get the cartridge I ordered, I guess. So consider this an experiment. And also this is so messy. So I'm just going to do this for some time. And I'm going to report back when I'm finished. It's really wet. You can probably see it. Yeah, but I'm through the whole way. And I think I used a lot of ink there. So I think what I want to do is to let this sit for a while so the ink can actually soak into the ribbon, and then I'm just going to go over with a cloth and take some of the ink away. And then we probably maybe should be good. Yeah, I think that was way too much ink. But it doesn't look too bad, actually, because it soaks in quite well. Yeah, I think we're good. Let's try. Okay, turning this on. Okay, that was way too much, it seems. Yeah, that didn't work very well. But at least it's a lot darker. You need a lot less ink, I guess. This is quite smeared. But I think it looks better than before. This is before. And this is after. So yeah, kind of a halfway of a success. You have to do this more evenly and take your time more than I just did. But as I said, I have new cartridges on order, so yeah. Might just let this print for a while to see if that makes it more evenly coated. Yeah, and it certainly got a bit better in terms of smearing and things like that. Yeah, this is the beginning of the print, and this is now where we're at. So this helps. And it looks way better than when we didn't do this, so I call this a win. So it's actually not that bad. We went from this was the initial printout, from this when it was first refilled to this, which does look reasonable. It's still smearing a bit, but I guess that's going to wear off if we use this more frequently. And remember, this isn't the greatest printer to start with, so yeah, I'm pretty satisfied actually. This is not too bad at all. So the method seems to work. Time will tell if this lasts for a while, but yeah, at least we have readable characters. Quite alright, I would say. Still better to get a new cartridge, but the printouts weren't much better when this was new, I guess, as far as I remember. So yeah, it works. Okay, that was a promising start, I guess. I of course want to take this apart because I need to do some work on the case, and we are also going to have a chance to look at the electronics. This just comes off like so. And this just lifts out too. Nice, okay. And I think there are the screws. There's some dirt in here. I think we had a Coke spill. I think there are 4 screws in the corners here, and we should be able to lift this thing, the case, off. And I think this should just pull out. It's moving. Yeah, there we go. It just pulled out. And now we should be able to just lift this apart, I guess. Are we though? Yeah. There we go. Yeah, there's not much in here at all. I think we should be able to... This is just clipped in, I think. This brown part here. There we go. So the ribbon from the top panel is just connected here. So we have the bare wires here. And this is a locking mechanism for the wires. Okay. And in terms of electronics, there's not too much in here. Huge transformer. This is the fuse. We have 2 rectifiers. We have a couple of electrolytic capacitors in there, and a bit of logic and a ROM, which is an EEPROM. I don't know if you can see that in there. There. Don't even know if I want to take this apart much more. It would probably be a good idea to replace the capacitors at some point, but I think I want to clean this and retrobrite this. And yeah, we're going to be good, I guess. Maybe some lubrication. Yeah, but most of this is going to be cleaning and retrobrighting. And we only really have to retrobrite this part, obviously, because this is yellowed and the other parts are brown anyway, so won't see anything happening there. Want to clean this. And this I'm just going to go in there with a toothbrush, I guess. This one's just dusty for the most part. I guess we could get the circuit board out of here. Oh, it's just sitting on... Yeah, okay, that's pretty nifty. Yeah, so maybe we are going to replace the capacitors after all. That's pretty serviceable, actually. So the whole circuit board with the electronics, or with the electronics that matter, is just slid in here, basically. It just sits here in the case. But first of all, I'm going to soak these parts that I can easily soak in the sink with some soapy water. Yay! And you can see the original color here. The parts that were not exposed to any sunlight. So that's the goal for the whole thing. So I have cleaned this to an extent where I'm satisfied with it, and I'm now going to do some retrobrighting using my usual steps, the peroxide cream I used frequently for that. And yeah, you've seen me doing this before, so I'm not going to go into much detail. Basically, you use hydrogen peroxide cream that you spread on the parts, and then use some UV light or sunlight, whatever you have. And I'm going to use the cream because I don't have a large enough container to fully submerge the parts, but usually this stuff works pretty well for me. And then I'm just going to coat the parts I want to retrobrite with a bit of this stuff, which is usually, it's the stuff that is used for bleaching hair. And usually this works pretty well for me. And this is significantly yellowed, so this is going to take a while. But usually with this method I get pretty nice results. The cling wrap is just there so that stuff doesn't evaporate too quickly, because it is going to be exposed to some heat. And it's just regular cling wrap that you would use in the kitchen. That's where I got this from the kitchen. And then I'm just going to put it into my retrobrighting box that has a UV grow light on top. And I'm going to come in every half an hour or so and massage the cream around a bit, which usually prevents streaking and discoloration of any kind. So yeah, that's a good habit. Let's put it in the box. Yeah, and as I said, I'm just going to put this in there and set an alarm for every half hour or so and spread the cream around a bit. So this is going to take a while, as I said. Let's look at the other parts in the meantime. So this part I'm just going to clean with a toothbrush and some window cleaner. And we should be able to get all the dirt out there. Just finishing with some IPA. Yeah, nearly as good as new. And for the rest of the bottom part, I'm just going to use a vacuum cleaner and a little brush to get the dust out, because most of it is dust, and then I'm just going to go over the surfaces with some window cleaner and we're going to be good, I guess. And regarding the electronics, I'm not going to do anything today because I don't have all the capacitors in stock that I need. But it's not too difficult to get to this, so yeah, I'm going to do that at a later point. And yeah, as you can see, there's not much on here really. There's an unlabeled chip. No, it's not unlabeled. MPS-801. Seems to be the main processor. This is the ROM. Yeah, I used some compressed air to get rid of the rest of the dust, and this part seems to be pretty clean. I think I want to put some lubricant in some of the moving parts here, but other than that, we're good. Yeah, now we just have to wait for the Retrobrite to finish, and then we're done, I guess. At least for today, because there's not much else I can do. Well, I've been retrobrighting this thing for, I think, at least 8 hours. I lost count, kind of. And it's not really doing anything anymore, so I'm just going to take this out now. Usually what happens when you're doing retrobrighting like I do, in my experience, it starts off very, very slowly, and then you get to a point after a couple of hours where things go rather quickly, and it brights a lot during 2 or 3 hours, and then it gradually just slows down a lot, and yeah, it's slower and slower, and I think we reached a point where it's going to take, I don't know, another day or so of constant retrobrighting, and I'm not going to do that for this printer. It kind of looks okay at this point, so I'm just going to leave it at that. So let's have a look. So there we are. And as you can see, we are nearly there. It still looks slightly yellow, but that's okay. We got rid of a lot of yellow. So I'm going to wash this, and then we're going to dry this, and it's time for reassembly, I guess. And here's the result. It's not that bad, actually. It definitely got significantly brighter. Yeah, I'm quite satisfied with how this turned out, and I'm just going to go with this and reassemble this thing. And obviously I'm going to have to go back in at some point and replace the capacitors, because the capacitors are just smoothing capacitors for the power supply, as far as I can see. So that's going to be a good idea in the long run, because they were made in the 80s and they don't last forever. Electrolytic capacitors just dry out over time. Yeah, there we go. That should be it. Okay. Oh, I forgot the front part. Okay, let's see. This is the part that goes here. Yes. Ah, there we go. Okay. I didn't even have to get all the screws out. And there you have it. And obviously I have to put this thing back. There we go. Yay! And it does still work. It's, yeah, my refill attempt with the ribbon there wasn't the best, I guess, but still, it does print again. And I think it's going to get a bit better in terms of smearing the ink across the paper when I use this for some time, which I'm definitely going to do. Nice. Let's see if the Paper Advance button still works as well. So I'm just going to put this into computer mode and Paper Advance. Yay! This is just a line feed, so yeah, it does fully work, it seems. I kind of want to hook this up to a computer and see if it works in conjunction with a computer, which is its purpose. This is not made for printing test prints after all, so let's do that. So I set up my VIC-20 here, and this goes in the same port that the floppy disk drives and other peripherals go. And as I said, these ports are just connected through, so should be able to just connect this to any of the ports. Yeah, that's our serial connection to the printer made. Let's see if we can use it from the VIC-20. So I have my VIC-20 nicely set up. The printer is already powered on. It should reset with the machine. Okay, and now we should be able to open a channel to the printer. So we should be able to open this like so and print something to the printer. Whoa. Channel 1. Hello. Yay! And sure enough, we did print a pretty smeared hello there. It doesn't look great because it's so smeary, but it does prove that we have communications going on between the computer and the printer, which is, of course, nice. Okay, let's try that again, shall we? Yay! It works! Okay, let's try to print a graphical image for a change. I have my simulated final cartridge hooked up here, which is my 1541 Ultimate. And I'm going to attempt to print this, which should technically be possible if we set this everything correctly. Probably this should work. I'm not quite sure if it works, but let's see. Oh, it's doing something. Yeah, it's printing something. And these blocky things were a previous attempt. And I failed miserably. Wow, and it isn't even able to print the whole line in one go. Prints it in several goes. Okay. It's just like the old days. It isn't great. But we got something. I have a new ribbon on order, and this hard copy, as it was called, thing in the final cartridge isn't perfect. Of course, it doesn't really represent the colors in here, but you can clearly see that this is our test pattern that we just printed. And yeah, this printer seems to work fine. Yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said, I have new ribbons on order, and I also ordered some new paper, which is actually still available. Ordered it on Amazon, just as you do today, because I guess dot matrix printers are still used in some professions, like for doctors and things like that. Not these ones, I guess, but more modern ones. You can also buy dot matrix printers still, like Epson makes some, and I think some other manufacturers still produce dot matrix printers as well. So it's not dying out just yet. And I dearly love the simplicity and the rudimentarity, is that a word, of it. Yeah, it just takes me back even more than using a C64. Using a C64 or VIC-20 with one of these takes me back even further. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon and on the channel memberships page. Hope to see you again on this channel sometime. I'm Jan Beta. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.